Oh, hi. My name's Tom McIntyre. I have to run right now, but some nice person will introduce my session.
Hello, and welcome to another podcast, courtesy of BehaviorAdvisor.com. I'm Xiaochuan Kung. Today, Dr. Tom McIntyre provides us with guidance in setting up a personalized, positive, and effective classroom management system. Thank you for visiting BehaviorAdvisor.com. Now, Dr. Mac.
Proficient management of student behavior is the linchpin skill in teaching. It is crucial to our success as teachers. It allows us to perform all the other duties that are associated with our job. Unfortunately, it is the most difficult skill for teachers to master. In other areas, we follow the steps that are outlined in the curriculum guide or in the instructional textbook. With regards to behavior, certainly there are some procedures and interventions where we do have some steps outlined. But proficient management of student behavior requires quick thinking, requires a personality, the ability to size up a situation and the people involved, being able to decode behavior and see what's going on behind the superficial, behind the screen. In order to promote student achievement, the real and authentic kind, and the No Child Left Behind kind, we need to guarantee our charges physical, psychological, and intellectual safety. Our actions and reactions must prevent, if at all possible, or redirect inappropriate and off-task behavior. Our approach determines whether we accomplish the task assigned to us by society, produce educated citizens who can be civil and cooperative in group settings. We failed many in the past. Just look at the talk show hosts on Fox News. But most teachers find that their effectiveness is increased and enhanced if they construct a strong framework on which to attach their many strategies and interventions. I'm talking about an overall plan of action for addressing both the functional and dysfunctional actions, appropriate and inappropriate behavior, both good and bad behavior, so to speak. We'll be discussing in this podcast how to devise and implement a general, all-encompassing behavior management system. Essentially, there are 4 universal requirements that we must consider. 4 pieces to the behavior management puzzle that we must fit together tightly and securely. We need to address the big 4. Most effective, comprehensive behavior management systems that are used in the classroom contain 4 integral components. First of all, you have to have rules, guidelines, regulations. If those rules are not adhered to, if those guidelines are not abided by, then we need negative consequences for noncompliance. Certainly, though, we want the main component of our system to be positive consequences, demonstrating the behaviors that allow our youngsters to learn, allow other youngsters to learn, and allow teachers to teach. The 4th component is that we must be consistent. We must be predictable. Kids need to know how we are going to respond in certain situations in order to influence them in the making of good choices. Generally speaking, teachers set up rules when? Right, early on the first day of school. Are there exceptions to this rule on rules? Of course, there are always exceptions in behavior management, except things like do no harm, do what is in the student's best interests, be respectful, and never give up on a kid. Certain absolute demandments. Now, one teacher puts kids in groups, engages them in interesting projects for 3 days, figuring she's got a honeymoon period. The kids are back at school. They all want to have a good year. They're on their best behavior. She's got 2 or 3 days before she sees some demonstrations of inappropriate behavior. At the end of that 2 or 3 days, she convenes the kids for a discussion of rules and regulations that would make for a productive and welcoming classroom. Another teacher, pre-K teacher, writes that if there were rules set up right away, they'd be meaningless to young children. As the days go by, the rules get set up as the children are involved in situations. A typical example of how we set a rule occurred on playground within the first week of school. The playground is made up with one half being covered by a rubber mat, has climbing equipment on it, and half is made of concrete for the tricycles and the ball playing. As the children played, we explained that the balls cannot go on the mat because that's an unsafe thing. Children are climbing and jumping off the equipment. They might trip over the balls. So we ended playground 5 minutes early to explain this to the whole group, brought them together. Now the children understand the rules of the playground because they experience the activity. It's not abstract, it's in context. She writes, we make sure that the children understand that rules are for their safety. But how many rules? 1, 12, 154 with several subclauses? Maybe then we can say, you've just violated subsection 4 of paragraph C of part 27 of chapter 5, which clearly states, nah. How many rules are typically recommended in textbooks and by experts in this area? Usually up to 6. Now, one teacher I knew had 2. The teacher is always right, and when in doubt, refer back to rule number 1. But he was working with an after-school club, kids who were motivated to be there. Do you involve your students, your pupils, in the making of rules? If so, how so? Perhaps the most common format is to take suggestions from the kids. We usually end up with several hundred no's and don'ts up on the board, but then we do what? Right, we combine them, ones that have a common theme. Gee, could no hitting, pinching, poking, biting, pulling hair maybe go together in the same category? And how could we rephrase this rule positively? Oh, what do we want? Keep hands, feet, and objects to self. Only positive touch. Something along that line. What if we don't get one crucial rule that we would like to have up there on the board? Well, we can suggest it. We say, gee, should we have a rule on raising hands? And you're going to get a lot of head nods and yes, indeed. And then that gets up on the board with the other ones. In the activities that accompany this podcast, you'll be directed to a TeacherTube video in which the educator is working with the youngsters to devise the guidelines for cohabitation in the classroom. We want to focus on having rules that tell kids what to do versus what not to do. Why? Some kids really don't know appropriate school behavior yet. We need to direct them as to what they should be doing in particular situations. Having those no and don't rules can backfire too. They serve as a reminder to show the misbehavior. Kids focus on the action word. It's a reminder to them to show that behavior. Don't run. Chances are you're going to see running if you say that or have it posted. No booger picking. Oh, we don't want that reminder. It's like saying, don't think of a red rhinoceros. Imposceros. Might there be exceptions to the no-nose rule? Times when a no rule is indicated and even useful? Certainly, when positive phrasing would be awkward, complex, or interfere with understanding. Like, how might you address gum chewing if that was a big issue in your school? Keep gum in wrappers? It sounds awkward. At other times, we want to make it known that a particular action is so inappropriate, heinous, vile, despicable, that it's not acceptable under any circumstances. It's now time to move to the second segment of our podcast regarding planning and setting up a comprehensive behavior management system in our classrooms.